أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Respected viewers, my name is Professor Asif Ali Parvez. I am recording programs about Holy Quran and science. This is my program number 37. In this program, I will mention the use of electron in computers. Now, first of all, I would like to read verses of Holy Quran. Allah Ta'ala says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وما يعزب عن ربك من مثقال ذرة في الأرض ولا في السماء ولا أصغر من ذلك ولا أكبر إلا في كتاب مبين. And there is not hidden from thy Lord even atom's weight in the earth or in the heaven, and there is nothing small than that or greater what is recorded in a clear book. Surah Yunus, verse 62. In another verse, Allah Ta'ala says, La yasabu anhum iskalu zarratin fis samawati wala fil ard wala asgharu min zalika wala akbaru illa fi kitabim mubin. Not an atom's weight in the heavens or in the earth or anything less than that or greater escapes him, but all is recorded in a clear book. Surah Al-Sabah, verse 4. Now, what are the key points mentioned in these two verses, which are very similar? So, God has said that nothing is hidden from him, whether it's an atom of a weight, or even is less than that, or greater than an atom. And it's all recorded in a clear book. Now, what is the definition of clear book? I leave that for the religious scholars to give a religious explanation. But as a scientist, what we mention is this chart which I'm showing is called Standard Model of Elementary Particles. And in simple terms, what does this mean is that according to the scientists, every material thing on this universe, whether it's us, Earth, Moon, Sun, galaxies, stars, you name it, anything which you can think of is basically made up of these particles. So these are the particles which make all of them. And I have picked the electron. That's why I put an arrow here, because all my programs are related to electron. Now, bit of a history of computer. Charles Babbage is an Englishman. He was born in 1791 and he died 1871. He was a great mathematician and an inventor, and he conceived the first automatic digital computer. But remember, in those days, there was no concept of even electron. So no concept of electronics. What he did, he made gears, like gears they are used in good old watches or even in a car. They are first gear, second gear, third gear. So they are gears used in it. So he made a computer using these gears. Then the electronic age started, and the first electronic numerical integrated and computer was designed, called ENIAC, and it was invented by two scientists. Their names are J. Eschert and John McCarthy, and it was made in 1943, so roughly less than 90 years ago. So we're not talking long time ago. And just imagine the figures which I'm going to put. It took 1800 square feet. Huge, like think of a massive big hall. So it was that big. And it used 18,000 vacuum tubes. Now, nobody used vacuum tubes when I was doing my MSc in 1971. And we used to do electron experiment. We used to use vacuum tubes. So I'm not going to in the detail of that. And the weight of this computer was almost 50 tons. Just think how heavy it was. And because these valves, vacuum tubes, created a lot of heat, so they have to put water jackets around it. Just like in your car, you have a radiator which water flows and cools down your engine. So they were doing. But just think about it. When they made hydrogen bomb, they used this computer. So you could imagine, even though it was huge, but still it had enough power to do the mathematical calculation to design a hydrogen bomb. And just to give you an example, the mobile in your pocket have probably much more power than this one. But that's how computers have been developed. Then the age of transistors came. The transistors are these three-legged, devices. Again, I'm not going to in detail. The only thing I can say, when we were doing MSc in 1971, we moved from the tubes to transistors. So in those days, transistors were really new in Pakistan, at least. And what do they do? Simple principle this: they control whether current should pass or should not pass. So that is they act like a switch. So that's what they are. And there are other devices like resistors, capacitors, and diodes which are used in this electronic circuits. Now, just to give you an idea, and I am not going to in great detail, but just to give the basic principle that how this works. Now, it works like, think of a gate. you know, Say I have gate, for example, at my house. If gate is shut, I can't take my car into my driveway. So I have electronic button. It opens the gate, and then I can drive the car and park it in my driveway. So there are many different types of gate designed, and I'm only giving you two examples which are simple, just to explain the principle. For a layman, you doesn't need to know, but when I was doing, we studied it a lot. So there are basically, as I said, there are many types of gate, but I'm giving you two gate example. One is called AND gate. And what does that mean? This is the symbol of the AND gate. So it is showing is that there is a signal coming here and the signal coming here, and how this gate will control. So for example, if this signal is 0 and 0, then the output will be 1. And then output will be 0, sorry. And if input is 1 and 1, the output will be 1. Now, OR gate is basically adding the two. So if, for example, this symbol on this A gate is 0, but on B is 1, then output will be 1. And there are, as I said, many gates called NAND gate, NOR gate, XOR gate, you name it, the list goes on. Now, in 1951, a computer was designed whose name is Universal Automatic Computer for Commercial Use. So that was designed so it could be used in the industry. And in IBM, a very big company, American company, they designed IBM 700 computer. Remember, in those days, there was no concept of laptop, no concept of iPad. Computer used to be as big as a room. And they were used in the industry, in Ministry of Defense, major private company used it, airline used it for ticketing purposes, offices used it, and it was used for communication. Then I want to mention another company, International Computers Limited. This is a British company. It was formed in 1968. And it made a lot of mainframe. I've just given two examples, 1900 series and 2900 series. And they were developed in 1960 onward, probably 1970 onward, I should have written there. I came to this country in this country means England, UK, 1977. And my plan was to do a PhD in physics, because physics was my subject. However, in those days, computer was a totally new field. Not many people knew about. Nowadays, even child, 3-4 year child knows about computer. So I was advised by my friends that why don't you do your higher studies in computers? Because this is the future. And I must say this was a good advice. So I left physics to one side and I moved into computer. And I did my higher study from a very famous college, King's College in London, England. Then I joined this company, International Computers Limited, as a senior design engineer, and I worked there for nearly 11 years, reached up to the level of a consultant before I moved to another company. I have written lots of software. Now, what is software is you program the computers. And I want to mention one specific activity or specific activity which I developed. In those days, computers were obviously complicated. And it was very difficult if something goes wrong to find a fault. Sometimes the engineers used to spend like 3 days, 4 days, 5 days to fix the computer. So a computer was designed and that came to our department. And my team's role was to write software which could find the faults of the computer. Now, this is a very fascinating thing in those days that rather than human being find the faults of computer, obviously I as a programmer was the real brain behind those programs, those portable computers, which our engineer used to take. It was like a sort of a suitcase. So they will take that with my software written on it, and they will put the board in it and run the program, and computer will tell you this chip is faulty, fault is here, change this one. So the work which used to be done like in sometime a week, but now they could do it in an hour. So that was a great improvement. In fact, if you think about it, that was the beginning of artificial intelligence, which is a buzzword nowadays. And I shall be making some programs on it. So I have done a lot of work in my life in this field. So I could call myself, a bit of expert. So I have spent nearly 34 years of my life teaching, studying, designing computers. So you could call me Asif is a computer man. Okay, now what is inside the computer? If you somehow open the computer, then you will see that there are a lot of what we called as the integrated circuits. So this is, for example of integrated, and they are commonly known as chips. Like chips of potatoes because they are in that shape. And there is one special chip which is I'm highlighting this one. This is called the central processor unit. The price of this chip is many, many times more than the gold. So same amount of gold, this chip is probably 100 or even 1,000 times more expensive than this one. And this is the brain of the computer. Now I want to do a comparison between humans and computers. So if we look at the human body like me, God have given a brain, yeah? And in brain is the one which is the source of all thinking, along with spinal cord. But brain is the one which does all the thinking. And if we go to computers, it has got what we called as central processing unit, which I showed you in my previous slide. So this is commonly known CPU. Everybody uses this phrase in our industry. So that CPU is like, you could say, a brain of the computer. And in one computer, there could be many CPUs doing different functions. Now, how we, the human, get information? For example, I can read a paper with my eyes or see a scenery with my eyes. That message passes through my eyes to the brain, and the brain interprets what I am looking. Similarly, I can read a piece of paper, and that's how information goes into my brain. Ears, I can listen through ears, music, sound, speech, and again, brain processes it, and I know what's being said. Tongue, I can speak with my tongue like I'm speaking now to you, so you can hear me. Or touch is I touch my body, I can feel it is hot, it's cold, etc. So these are different, you know, senses which God has given to us, the human being. so that we can get the data in, and then our brain processes it and understand what's going on. Now, if I look at the computer has same principle. It receives information from keypad. Those of you who have used this one, there's a keypad there. There's a mouse. In fact, this cursor which I'm moving is with my mouse. This is a mouse. And scanners are there. You can scan a piece of paper and you can feed that information. And microphone. I mean, for example, I'm talking to the microphone and the information is going to the computer. So, okay, once we receive the information, what does human body do? We process it and then we put it outside. For example, we can make an image of what we have seen, or we can write it. Okay, this is what I've seen. I write it down. Or I can speak, say, yeah, I read this book. This is, and so that's how I communicate with the other people. So what does computer do? Now, computer can also do printing, which you must have used, and it's come like you are seeing on this program I'm doing it on computer screen. So my picture is there and I'm speaking there. So you could see there is a lot of similarity. That's the point which I'm trying to make. So this is what we call as the hardware side of it. That means my physical body and physical computer. But physical body is not enough. We have to have what's called a software. We need to understand things. So again, our brain is the one which processes this information, understand the information which we receive by seeing, by hearing, by touch, or reading, or whatever the method we use. And same is with the computer. Computer have what we call the operating system. There are different levels of program. Again, I'm not going to go too much detail, but one is what's called operating system, again, which is like the base system of any computer. Just like human beings, even an illiterate person, he can see things, he can hear things, he can touch things, he can feel things. However, when the people go to, school or college or university, they learn a lot of things. So that is, first layer is which God has given us when a child is born. Second layer, if I can use that phrase, is when we go to school, college, university, we learn a lot of knowledge, and that knowledge is accumulated in our brain. Same is with the computer. Lot of applications have been developed. I mean, I'm just mentioning just Word is, for example, where you can write the text, PowerPoint, this presentation which I'm making is using the PowerPoint, and the internet, which virtually everybody uses that. So my point I want to recap, when we, the scientists, decided to develop computers, they looked how God has created us. And they worked on the same principle. Obviously, God creation is much, much sophisticated as compared to human computers. Although I must say they are getting better and better. And in my next program, I will probably talk about it. Now, I want to talk about internet, but first of all, I want to read a verse from Holy Quran. Allah Ta'ala says, why just sofo nushirat? Al Takwir, verse 11. And its translation is, a time will come when books are spread abroad, which means the books will be transmitted. And now, I'm sure each and every one of you uses internet. So in simple words, what is behind the scene, there are what we call as the data centers. Data centers are lots and lots of computers all over the world which are linked together. And data is stored on these data centers. And you use application, for example, everybody nowadays use Google, for example, although there are a lot more there, but let's stick with Google. So you ask a question, tell me about the computers, for example, and even instantly it will go all the computers and find out the answer and come up with a answer literally like this. You don't have to wait. It comes just like that. And this is displayed on the screen, or you can print it, or you can do whatever you like, and you can ask it very complicated questions. And probably in my next program, I will talk about this, where the computer developers has provided lot of intelligence to these computers. But I want to remind you that the verse which I read in the previous year, that this is an internet is a beautiful example of what God said was a sohofo noshira. A time will come, and we are lucky. We are witnessing that time. So say Alhamdulillah, we are witnessing this. Now, in my next program, I will be talking about the future of computers, particularly quantum computers. Now, this is a wonderful, wonderful device, and it is extremely, extremely complicated. But I will try to explain in layman's terms as much as I can. Jazakallah khair for listening me and watching my program. I would humbly request you to please subscribe it, share it, and like it. I am sharing this knowledge to all of you, so you benefit from it. And if you subscribe it, then I know how many people are watching this program. I put a lot of effort to do this, so I hope you will accept my request. Jazakallah, thank you very much for listening to me. Wa dawana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.